to order the I would like to call to order the ILL Tech Group meeting via Zoom for Thursday, August 24th, 2023 at 9:31 a.m. Thank you everyone in advance for your contributions to today's agenda, especially to Courtney, our vice chair, and to Jackie, who's going to be our recording secretary for today. Our minutes from May 18th, 2023, I'd like to have those approved. Is there anyone who would give us a first on that?
I move to approve the minutes. Anne from Prospect Heights.
Thank you, Anne. Do we have a second?
I'll second. Amy from Wilmette.
Thank you, Amy. Those minutes are approved. Do we have any additions to today's agenda? Being there are no additions to today's agenda, let's go on to the officers' reports. Thank you, Mary Ellen, for recording the May 18th, 2023 minutes. Today, we are going to be going over the Warren-Newport migration that will be presented by Mieko, formatting a 30 library lending string that will be Andy from Northbrook, WorldShare administration expirations that would be by Mieko, Finding More Illinois presentation by Debbie from CCS, a summary of the ALA conference by myself, and then a short 5-minute film on the Library of Congress. Do we have anything from Courtney, our vice chair?
Nothing for me.
Okay. Secretary Jackie?
Nothing for me.
Thank you. If you could announce your name when you respond to something so that Jackie can record it, that would be wonderful. And then sign into the chat so that we know who's present for today. New business, Mieko, go ahead.
Thanks. So I did just post the sign-in sheet link to the chat. If you have a moment during the meeting, go ahead and fill it out. Otherwise, I will email it out to the listserv after the meeting. So the first thing I wanted to talk about was the migration updates, and I am going to share my screen. I have just a few slides to share with everyone here. Okay. So if you attended the last CERCTech meeting, or if you watched the recent offline review, you probably already seen the schedule, but I did just want to take a moment to go over it with this group and just a few other things we can anticipate for go live. So our offline period, it's going to be kicking off in less than a week, really. So August 31st, next Thursday, Warren-Newport will start their offline period. CCS libraries will be online on August 31st. Starting September 1st, all CCS libraries will be working in offline. So the offline period will go from September 1st through September 4th. Starting Tuesday, September 5th, we anticipate CCS libraries to be online at the start of the day. And then all of our regular activities can resume. And then Warren-Newport will be online the following day, on Wednesday, September 6th. So just some things to kind of anticipate, ILL related stuff to anticipate for. Delivery was paused on September 1st for libraries who opted in. So if you filled out that in form, you should have received an email from me at the end of last week, just confirming that Rails received the request. They will not drop off new items for September 1st. They did confirm they will still pick up bins. So they'll pick up bins, but they won't drop off any new bins to process. And then delivery will resume for everyone on September 5th. Another thing to do to help prepare for go live is to check for interlibrary loan Warren Newport items that are currently in Polaris. And we always want to watch out for these because once the new library's data is merged with our data, we will have duplicate item records. So thankfully, with the Warren Newport migration, we're looking at really minimal impact with duplicate item records, mostly because Warren Newport currently uses an external service called Iliad to maintain their ILL items. So they don't have any like ILL item records in Sierra. So all we have to focus on is what Warren Newport stuff is currently in our database. And as of this morning, we're in really great shape. We have 12 total Warren Newport items currently in our database. Only one of those items is currently checked out to a patron. If it's not returned and deleted before we go offline, that's completely okay. We have a way to manage that item individually. So my task for you all is to check on those other 11 items. So we just want to make sure that there are interlibrary loan requests that are in like received status and are available. That typically indicates that the patron has checked out and they've already returned that interlibrary loan item and they're done with it. So we just want to check for any of those interlibrary loan items that have already been returned. We just haven't cleaned out that old ILL request record. So check your request managers in Leap. You'll want to make sure you return and delete old ILL request records. And then just for a reference, the Warren Newport barcode prefix is 31124. So if you do see any records with that barcode prefix, that would be our Warren Newport stuff. So like I said, we're in really good shape for that though. So definitely reach out if you have any questions, but I'm not going to anticipate any issues with interlibrary loan stuff. So
Yeah.
I'll pause. Yeah.
Mieko, if we opted out of delivery, you said that they would still come pick up outgoing?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
If you end up thinking of any other questions, definitely reach out to the help desk, help@ccslib.org. We will watch out for those.
Thank you, and thank you for all the work that you're doing in the background on this. Moving on, Andy is going to lead the discussion on formatting a 30 library lending string.
Hello. Trying to fix my camera, which is not cooperating with me. Oh, well, you can see the top of my head.
Yeah.
So we've noticed sometimes there's been 30 library string requests, and I couldn't figure out how to do that. And since I've submitted this question, one of my coworkers came up with the answer. And it's really quite simple. So if you're doing a new for review and you see that there's a ton of libraries and you just want to make sure you get it on the first try. When you're choosing your lending string, you could change the quantity that's on the right side of the lending string to 2, just like we do for book club. And then you could fill each string with 15, and that'll equal 30. You could probably do it for 3, and it'll equal 45. I didn't realize that at first, but it could be useful. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yes,
Okay,
definitely.
good.
Yeah, yeah.
Thanks.
A nice math problem there. Thank you for finding that solution and for everyone who contributed in her search. Do we have any other comments on this? No? Okay. If not,
Thank
let's
you.
move on. Thank you very much, Andy, and let's move on to Mieko again, World Share.
So this was, I guess, looking for input from the group. I think Stephanie reached out to me a little bit ago because she ran into an expiration with her WorldShare admin profile. And I had no clue that those things could actually expire, and that was a setting. So I learned a lot that day. And I wanted to just check in with the group and see how many of you have run into issues with that expiration setting, or check to see how everyone has it set. What date do you have it set for?
I ran into this in May, actually, just got the email from OCLC support saying it expired. So I just opened a support ticket and said, can it not be? It was really fast. They changed my expiration date to 2099. I wasn't sure how to find it without the support ticket, but OCLC fixed it very quickly for us.
I ran into it a few months ago. When we came in the morning and tried to log in, we got the expiration notice. And so I worked with OCLC. I called them. I just Googled their phone number, called them. And their tech support was super helpful. There are 3 things you need to know when you call into their tech support. You need to know that your institution symbol, their usernames, and our usernames, our institution symbol, and the registration ID. My IT department was with me when this was happening, and they think it was because they were running cookie deletion in the background. And on the call with them, with OCLC, they extended ours to 2040.
There's also a way that I learned that you can fix it on your own just to check your date. If you go when you're in the WorldShare record, up on the left-hand corner, there's admin tab, which I was like, what are you talking about? I don't see this. And it was like right there on the left side because I'm always focused down this area. You can click on that and then you can look at your setup in there. And then you can also manually change the date yourself if you'd like to. So that's what I learned on the whole thing.
I was so interested to learn about the expiration dates. It feels like it's just leads to a scary day for many staff.
Yeah, I came in on a Monday and that happened. And I'm like, why can't I sign in? And I actually had to call them and they helped me out.
I'm really glad you brought this up because I just logged in to check and mine expires next March. But it doesn't look like it's letting me change the date myself because it's grayed out.
If you call OCLC, they're very helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah, they
Takes
can
a
help
minute.
you. And you might also have, when you do click on that, I have a second password. So I have one that I use for searching, but then I also have when I run any reports, I have a second one and you might need that administrative password to do it. So
Okay.
you might want to double check with that.
Yeah, thank you.
Mhm.
So I guess add that to everyone's to-do list in the next couple weeks. Check your expiration date and reach out to OCLC to get that extended if you need.
Thank you, Miyako. I think what we could do also is look up that OCLC phone number and we could post that in our minutes or in the chat so that people will have that access to it. Do we have any other comments? Wonderful, and thank you for the varied solutions to that situation. Going on, Find More Illinois. Debbie, you're on.
Okay, so I wanted to take some time at this meeting to talk about one of CCS's strategic initiatives for this fiscal year, which is investigating consortial membership into Find More Illinois. So this was recently presented and approved as something we will be looking into by governing board at their meeting earlier this month. So just a little bit of background on Find More Illinois. It's a statewide interlibrary loan platform managed by Rails. So with Find More Illinois, both patrons and staff can log into the Find More Illinois interface to place ILL requests. Those filled interlibrary loan requests are then delivered to the patron's pickup library through Rails delivery. So currently there are about 60 libraries that participate in Find More Illinois. That number might have changed slightly since I created this slide. You can view that complete list online on the Find More website. At this time, members are primarily public libraries, though there are a handful of non-public libraries, one academic, a few schools, and then a couple special libraries as well. So why is CCS looking at Find More Illinois? We have a few reasons why this popped up on our project list for this year, and I'm going to go over them with you. So first is fiscal responsibility, which is one of our strategic initiatives. So currently our CCS OCLC costs are pretty high. We pay over $370,000 a year on OCLC, and that includes both ILL services and cataloging services. So this pricing long-term might be unsustainable. So at this time, we want to proactively research alternate options and potentially reduce our dependency on OCLC services in the long term. Next is improving the patron experience. So patrons can place hold right in the Find More interface without any kind of staff intervention. So for patrons, this allows them some streamlined access to materials that are owned at other Find More Illinois libraries. And finally, resource sharing, which is the bread and butter of CCS. If CCS were to join Find More, we would drastically increase their membership, bringing on 30 libraries. And this would allow us to share our collections with those libraries who may not be able to afford CCS membership, including some smaller libraries in our service areas. CCS libraries, we're big libraries, we've got big collections, and by joining Find More Illinois, this could incentivize other libraries to join the program as well, which could really help build a strong resource sharing platform that would benefit, again, not just our patrons and our service areas, but that larger Illinois library community as a whole. So this project is going to take place in 2 phases. This first phase is beginning now and will run through November. From now through about October, CCS is going to begin researching what Find More Illinois membership could look like. This is going to include contract negotiations with Rails to discuss pricing. It's going to include an exploration of the setup and configuration. It's also going to include talking to all of you about your existing workflows and how joining Find More could modify those workflows. At November Governing Board, CCS will present joining Find More to the board, and at that time they will vote on whether or not they want to move forward with joining Find More as a consortia or if they do not want to move forward at that time. So again, we're in phase 1. If governing board in November says we want to do this and join Find More as a group, we will then begin setup and implementations in early 2024. And that will probably take some time because we're really big. We've got a lot of libraries, a lot of staff that would need training. And we would anticipate a launch sometime next summer. In this slide, I list July through August. It might be earlier, it might be later, depending on all of the nuts and bolts. So at this time, we are in the very, very early stages. But I did want to bring it to this group because I think it's important for all of you to stay in the loop. I know some of your directors have likely already talked to you about this. But this time I want to open it up to questions with the caveat that I may not know the answers. I likely don't know the answers, especially if it's about functionality. We don't really meet with Rails until next week, so I'm hoping a lot of my questions will be answered at that time. But I'm interested in hearing from the group because your questions are important and they'll help me know what to ask Rails when we meet with them in the coming weeks. So I'm going to open it up to see what everyone thinks.
I have a question.
Sure.
You were saying about looking long-term at our membership with OCLC because of costs. If we discontinue that, then will we be limited then just to Illinois borrowing and lending?
Yeah, at this time, we don't have any plans to drop OCLC. We do know based on some research that Mieko, Rachel, and Virginia did that Find More Illinois, it won't meet all of our ILL needs at this time. Mieko and Rachel and Virginia did a project where they analyzed some libraries' OCLC requests and then compared them to holdings in Find More. And certainly Find More did not have all the items available that were needed to fill those requests. So at this time, we're planning to continue on with our OCLC agreement. But possibly in the future, if Find More becomes more robust, we might be able to look at that time at some more creative solutions to ILLing and resource sharing. I don't know what those are though.
Okay.
This
and one
early
more
in the
question.
process. Yeah.
So is this an all or none for CCS libraries? Meaning
No,
that
it's
independently can a library join without all of CCS?
absolutely yes. So if CCS decides not to move forward as a group, individual libraries, if they were interested, could certainly pursue Find More independently. With a group, we'll be able to get a discount on pricing for full consortial participation, which is a perk, obviously, for everyone. But yes, if governing board votes no, certainly a library could join on their own, and CCS would help with that.
Thank you.
And I know there have been several libraries who have been exploring this. Stephanie, I know Highland Park was looking at this, and we had heard of a couple libraries as well.
Yeah, I did speak with the Rails, and I had a couple of questions because like what we do on interlibrary loans is we try 3 times to get the item for a person, and then we tell them that it's not available. So I asked them, you know, like if you do one, because maybe they don't know that you can request more than 15 libraries on an item. So I asked them, you know, how many times do you resubmit that? They couldn't tell me on that one. And then the other question I had for them was for out of state, because sometimes there's a fee, which we will pass on to our patron. But if there's a fee, do they just automatically say no and not give that option to our patrons? I mean, I think there's some questions about, they do go out of state is what they told me. First they try in state, then they go out of state. But it was just a little bit questionable on trying to find out how they actually handle it. And then I don't know if a number of you have received requests. Most of the stuff that they're requesting through WorldShare on behalf of people that are part of Find More are new items. And new items, I don't know about you, but we don't send anything out that's less than 6 months old. And it seems like the bulk of requests that I've received from them are for new items. So that's leading me to believe that these requests are not being filled. And then as the person, you know, does a patron know that in 6 months you might have access to it? And then, you know, that's like where a little bit of educating the patron and stuff on things like that. They're not going to be getting this if they're trying it once and then they don't get it and then that's that. So I don't know. I thought that there were a lot of questions and then also that their membership numbers are inflated because they count branches individually. So it might be like Evanston, but then they would count every single one a branch and then they'd say, oh, well, I'm sorry, Evanston, I don't know the exact number of branches, but we have three libraries instead of technically really only having one. So
Yeah, I know what you mean. On their website, they list branches. I do think I accounted for that when I came to my total of 60, but it was me like counting one by one. So I'll get a official number from Rails on how many libraries. I do think it's hovering between 60 and 65. But Stephanie, I wrote those questions down. So I understand that first one. So what you can sign up for this additional service with FindMore that if the hold can't be filled within FindMore, Rails staff request it via OCLC. And so that is specifically if a patron or a staff member places a request for a title available in FindMore, but for whatever reason, that request cannot be filled. And if that request then cannot be filled from within FindMore, Rails will themselves place that request through OCLC, whether it's in state or out of state. But I will ask for some clarification on fees and kind of what that process looks like. So that's a really good question. And then Stephanie, so then your other question was basically restrictions. So most libraries obviously don't lend new materials out on ILL. So what are we able to do in terms of restrictions and restricting those materials in FindMore, and or what information is kind of passed to the patron so that they know or don't know to come back in a few months to re-request it? So that's a good question to ask.
I think that they need some, I mean, I'm not sure who's placing the request at Rails on these, but maybe that they need to be educated that if it's a new item, you know, somehow letting those FindMore libraries know that most libraries do not send new material and you might want to have your patron do this. There needs to be some education on their part too. And the other annoying thing is when you do send something, they don't send back the paperwork with the item. I don't know if anyone else has run into that too, if you've lent things to Rails and checked it out to them and then in turn it's going to a FindMore type thing.
When you say paperwork, Stephanie, can you clarify what you mean? I apologize, I'm not an ILL expert.
Yes, when you send out a request, like there's an OCLC, hold on, I'll grab one and show you what it looks like. So there is an OCLC, oh, there you go, up here, this little number. This is what you use to close out the request when it's returned to you. And that they're not including any of the paperwork that you've sent out. So.
Okay. I will ask about that. And that's specifically when you are sending a Highland Park item to fill a FindMore hold.
On any WorldShare request that you send out to any library, you send that. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So maybe Rails needs to add a step to what they're doing.
Yeah, I'm wondering what's happening to the paperwork because also we've had some, because patrons drop off things from all different libraries and we've had a number of FindMore Illinois requests that get dropped off here, which we don't participate obviously in it. So then I guess the other question to them would be, do they want us then to send it to Rails or do they want us to send it to the owning library that you see the information on?
Okay. I don't know the answer to that question, but I will find out for you. I assume you get a lot of those returned to you because Highwood is a FindMore Illinois library. So they're your neighbor. So I bet that's why you're getting a lot, but I'll ask for clarification on that process.
Thank you.
So in the chat, Miyako popped in a list of libraries that currently participate. And I do see some questions here. Tricia asked, we borrow a lot from universities and do any schools participate? Currently, only one academic institution participates, and that is UIC. I know that earlier this year, Rails and Carly partnered to do some presentations on FindMore Illinois. And so I believe they're hoping to maybe boost academic library participation in Find More. But it's been summertime, so the going is kind of slow at academic institutions during the summer. So potentially they would see maybe some new members now that school has resumed in the fall. So again, only one at this time participating, which I know our libraries borrow a lot from academic institutions. I do see another question from Lori in the chat. We do not borrow AV materials from out of state. If Find More was not able to fill, would Rails look only within Illinois? It seems like based on Stephanie's comments that potentially they do look out of state, but that is a good question that I can ask at our meeting next week. And would RBP patrons be able to go online and request through Find More Illinois? I'm assuming, and this is an assumption and not fact, so don't quote me on this, that we'll be able to set up limits that would only allow our patrons to submit requests via Find More, but it's possible we may be able to have some flexibility. Lori, is your concern, do you want RBP patrons to be able to request through Find More, or do you not want RBP? We do not. Okay, good clarification. So I will confirm with Rails we're able to limit to just our patron codes. This is great. I know you would all be the people to give me good questions to ask Rails when we meet with them next week. So these are wonderful. Anyone have any more questions or comments?
I have a question more. I did do the Find More training with Louise at Wilmette. And one of the things that she and I talked about was the specifics of having two accounts. Because my understanding is they have a Find More account as well as a normal account for the library to make the request. They're not integrated. And I just wondered, I haven't experienced that at any libraries that I've worked at. Maybe others do allow their patrons to, but I've just never seen that. And I wondered how we would be able to integrate it, because patrons having to log in two different accounts, it doesn't seem patron friendly or user intuitive. So I just wanted to make sure if we're offering this service, that how does it streamline between the two?
And between the two, you mean between like Polaris or PowerPack and Find More?
Yes.
I will check on that to see if it's possible. I know that Pinnacle is another Polaris library consortia. I know that they have some configurations set up in their PowerPack that if a patron's search returns no results, they have a link that says can't find it here, search in Find More, and that link then points them right to Find More with the exact same search terms entered. However, I do believe the patron needs to sign in again in the Find More interface with their library card, but I'll confirm with Rails how that login process happens in Find More. And then also get some details on how any Find More requests would be integrated with their Polaris account, because the two systems will be connected, but I'm still waiting for some details on how that's going to work and what it looks like on the Polaris end.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I wouldn't have mind sharing a comment. So I'm at Evanston right now, but previously I was at Skokie, and we implemented Find More Illinois there. And the hardest push was trying to get our partner libraries, because Skokie was a part of InReach, and the hardest push was trying to get enough people to move to another system. I just want to say I'm a huge advocate of Find More Illinois. Like, there's one of the things I think we need to consider pushing is at the administrative level of our libraries is what is the commitment to Illinois-wide resource sharing? And Rails is trying to do that. And they're having a really tough time because people are afraid to take that jump and give it a try and join. It doesn't really cost that a lot. And I would hope CCS would be in a really good position to negotiate, because Rails is, I wouldn't say desperate is the right word, but they need more people. And if we're ever going to lower those costs to do this basic sharing of resources that OCLC charges us, sometimes you've got to jump to something, maybe even if it's not as good as what you have now. And I'm not criticizing Find More Illinois and saying it's not as good, but we're never going to get away from OCLC stranglehold. And I love OCLC, they have an amazing product, but you're never going to lower and reduce the cost of ownership for interlibrary loan if you don't take a chance and try something like Find More Illinois. So I will be supporting CCS's investigation into this, and hopefully our new director, as they hire them, will share my opinion. But at least for Evanston, we're going to be a big advocate for this. I think it's a really amazing system, and if statewide resource sharing, if Rails is really going to be able to make this happen, more people need to jump into the group on this and not wait for larger academic libraries to join. Larger public libraries need to join first, and that's what Rails is struggling with. And we've got enough large-sized public libraries in CCS that would be an amazing grab for Rails to be able to have CCS join. So I hope it happens. And Deborah, good luck with the research and negotiation.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. So when we presented this to governing board a couple weeks ago, there was a lot of enthusiasm amongst your directors for the project. And they kind of echoed similar things to what Ben just said. It's like everyone's kind of like waiting for everybody else to join Find More Illinois. And everyone thinks it's a good product and we want to make it really successful. But like there's been this just hesitation to be like the one that does the jump. And in talking to a couple of non-CCS libraries as we were looking at Find More Illinois and learning more about it, at least one large library said, hey, if CCS joins Find More Illinois, we would want to join Find More Illinois too. So I know that CCS joining Find More is a big incentive, as I mentioned earlier, for some other libraries to join. So that is one of the reasons why we're looking at doing this as a group, because it would be really impactful for the service as a whole and could, again, incentivize other libraries to join to really build it into a resource sharing platform that could be closer to filling all of our needs. So Ben, I am with you 100% on everything you said, and really hope that this moves forward, but we've got a lot of work to do before we get to that November governing board meeting to make sure again that it is the right fit for everybody and that we're ready to do it. So we'll keep you all posted. This has been so helpful for me. Any other questions or comments that you want to share? Okay, hearing none. Ooh.
I think
there you
this,
go. I was like, I think you're muted.
Yes, thank you. I think this fits with the motto of ALA, the best reading for the largest number at the best cost. And that's ALA's motto. Yeah. So thank you. This was a wonderful presentation.
Absolutely. So I will say, if anyone thinks of questions after we hang up here today, feel free to reach out to me directly, and I'll work with Rails to get any outstanding questions that you might have answered. Again, I'm thinking we'll probably host at least one Find More session, probably sometime in October ahead of that governing board vote in November. At which I'd have Rails demo the product, a chance for everybody to ask questions, address any concerns that we might have. So I'll work to set that up, and then we'll get that event into L2 and into our newsletter. So look for that in the coming weeks. And then I will be also sending out a call, probably via the ILL listserv, asking for some volunteers. As part of our research into this project, we want to visit a couple libraries and go through your ILL workflow. That way we can kind of figure out how Find More fits into what you're currently doing. So I'm going to be looking for some volunteers. If you're interested, you can email me directly, but I will also send a call out at some point in the coming weeks, asking if we can come visit your library to dive into ILL stuff with you. So thanks in advance for anyone who might be willing to have us out to visit. All right, then Jeannie, I'll turn it back to you.
Wonderful, thank you. I'm going to give you a summary on the ALA conference. It was held at the end of June in Chicago at McCormick Place. And it really only took a global pandemic for us to realize that a lot of our daily work can be done from home. And sometimes we're sitting around in our pajamas and doing a Zoom meeting, or today we're all meeting by Zoom. But conferences are about connecting with people. And personally, I feel that leaders attend conferences to remain on top of their game. There are a lot of different types of leaders, whether you're an expressive, gathering ideas, a driver looking for ways to manage time, a supportive leader searching for encouraging outlets, or an analytic person looking at the numbers. The ALA conference offered an opportunity for growth through connections and enriching experiences. This year, there were over 15,000 people attending. That's double the number of people that attended the last conference that was in Washington, D.C. And it was really a phenomenal conference. We had OCLC was there. They had a bistro set up, and they were passing out coffees, and everybody attended presentations that were being given by Web Junction, which I have mentioned in the past. But we also had the Library of Congress was there, and they gave presentations every half hour. Conferences like the ALA conference, that's their biggest event of the year, and it's all about networking. Conferences are not only about talking, it's about a sense of community. Clearly, the people who go to these conferences are aimed at groups of people that have more or less the same interests. These conferences help us expand our knowledge, and moreover, attending conferences, you learn about things outside of maybe your field of experiences. You get insights into the latest trends. My focus this year was on looking at graphic novels for all age groups, whether you're an elementary student, a high school student, or an adult. And I got to meet one of the DC Comics authors of the newest Wonder Woman book. So that was really something. Also, you get to meet your heroes. I never did meet Dolly Parton, who was being honored this year at the conference, but she did attend via Zoom. I don't know if she was wearing her pajamas or not. But that was exciting to know that she did attend. I did talk to a librarian from Tennessee, and the librarian from Tennessee, we had about an hour and a half conversation, and they were having Dolly Parton come out to their library, and she was a Comic-Con reference librarian, and we exchanged ideas for the venue. She was going to focus on Dolly Parton's costumes over the years, and they were going to have a live visit from the songwriter, singer herself. Also, when you attend these conferences, or even when you attend something like today's meeting, make sure that you write that down someplace, because at the end of the year, when you refer back to what you have done, you should include this on your curriculum vitae, which is kind of what have you been doing all year long. So whether you're an expressive, a supporter, a driver, or an analytic, the one thing that I can say is this helps keep your finger on the pulse of the library community. And that's my presentation on the ALA conference. Moving on, I'd like to take you to the Library of Congress. The Library of Congress is the largest library in the world. And just give me a second here. I'm going to move these over. We have a short film. It's about a 5-minute film. And if you could start that, Mieko.
Yeah. So what I think I'm going to do, I'm just going to pause the meeting recording while the video is
Okay.
showing, and we'll have the direct link to the recording in the comments.
Next meeting is
Sorry, Jean, I just wanted to start the recording again before we resolve.
keep going. Okay. So thank you very much. Our next meeting is going to be on May 16th. If there are
Feb-
no other things to add to today's meeting, do I have someone who will first do we have
I just want to, our next meeting will be held virtually on February 22nd.
Oh, February 22nd, sorry. May 16th is our first live meeting. Thank you. Do I have a motion to adjourn today?
I move to adjourn. Anne from Prospect Heights.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I second Stephanie from Highland Park.
Thank you, Stephanie. Meeting adjourned. Have a wonderful week.
Thank you.